A mask can represent so much, and yet tell us very little at the same time. A mask can hide your identity, or even bring out your true colours. They have an air of secrecy around them and mistrust. They remove the humanity and can trick the mind. Many movies explore the metaphorical and literal meanings behind wearing a mask, whether it's Into the Spider-Verse, showing that anyone can wear a mask and be part of a collective, while still being themselves, or even Kick-Ass 1 and 2, showing the dangers that come with hiding your identity. There is one movie that always, for me, is the perfect case study for what it's like to lead a double life, to let the mask take on its own persona, and how to find purpose in your regular life without it. That being Tim Burton's 1992 classic, Batman Returns. Batman Returns takes the duality of Batman and Bruce Wayne and extends it towards its entire cast to provide an expert dissection of the duality within Gotham City and its citizens. The movie is about masks, and the balance between egos. It is fundamentally Batman, and a great representation of the character that is incredibly fun and interesting to watch through the fantastic visual style of Tim Burton and his fantastic understanding of the characters.
Those themes of duality and splits and all, something that I can relate to and like very much.
These are not direct adaptations, like Ben Affleck's Batman being a stand-in for Frank Miller's. These are undeniably Batman, Catwoman and the Penguin, however they are wholly unique, a take that is both a horror and comedy approach, similar to how the TV show Gotham would later handle the same characters. The idea of a superhero toying with leading two separate lives is nothing original, and even later adaptations of Batman would toy with which side of Batman and Bruce Wayne is really in charge, which has become an essential part of the character, with the likes of Mask of the Phantasm and Tom King's run from 2017. Tim Burton chooses to show both lives as being completely distinct. Bruce Wayne is for the most part a normal guy. He's not consumed by vengeance, as much as he seems to be lost and struggling to put back together his life, which the first movie explored, with how the Gotham press knew very little about him. I have always found Keaton's performance to be the most interesting portrayal of Bruce Wayne. His Batman is a spot-on adaptation of the comics, but an intentional choice was made to disconnect Bruce and leave him distant and lonely, and with all the money in the world, never lifting a finger, has left this version of Bruce with nothing to really strive towards, which is where Selina Kyle comes into play, to fill this empty void and give Bruce a glimmer of a normal life, which is something he strives to achieve. Selina is a perfect copy of Bruce, and this allows their understanding of one another to flourish into an awkward but charming relationship, which is almost impossible to see come to fruition due to these double lives taking such a huge toll on their minds. Selina has a dependence on the Catwoman. It gives her power and freedom that she's wanted her entire life, and to her it's an emancipation, but at the cost of her former life as an average citizen. You could say it was a destined fate for this gothic nightmare of a city to trap and drain the life out of its inhabitants, to the point where the only way to have a meaningful life is to take one step into the dark side. It's clear Bruce and Selina get along because they are both unsure of who they are anymore. Bale's Batman has it all worked out, and he knows how to act in order to fool the public and be the most efficient Batman. He doesn't care for an actual life, and it's very rare we see a Batman go outside of the playboy persona and actually try to be a regular person, whereas in Keaton, I see a complete disconnect. He doesn't have that playboy persona, He has no false identity to fall back upon, to make friends or be a functional member of society when he's not Batman, and it makes us believe him as a human being that has lost his way, in search of purpose in his life, which I credit entirely to Tim Burton, for this kind of social outcast is a character he relies upon over and over again, and clearly has an incredible understanding of the outcasts of the world and what makes them tick, which makes this lonely Bruce Wayne more understanding and relatable, especially today. On the other hand, we have the Penguin. Similar to Bruce, he has entirely given in to his, for lack of a better term, animalistic persona, and is like Bruce, trying to convince Gotham he is a functioning member of society, but fails, and resorts to becoming a full-on child-murdering maniac. His character is honestly not the most interesting, but serves the purpose of showing what can happen when you give in to that darker side, almost saying that you need to have a double life, the balance of the good citizen and the bad vigilante, to truly make both succeed. Penguin may have tipped off the edge, and it looks like Selina will do the same if Batman cannot convince her that her old life as a secretary was worth keeping up, to not give in to the persona and to stay in the light. Bruce may be a lost soul, but he is content. He has a lighter side that keeps him sane, as we get small glimpses of what a Bruce Wayne would look like when completely consumed by the Bat. Maxwell Shreck is Christopher Walken.
Huh?
His mask is that of the good Gotham businessman. We see him bribe Penguin with sleazy corporate decisions and clearly immoral choices he refuses to own up to, even down to his final breaths, despite the kidnapping of Gotham's sons. His only anchor to the light being something that could have redeemed him is his morality. Max is a fascinating example. He doesn't realise that the mask he's wearing is even there until it's too late. Due to a clear lack of self-awareness, the persona he displays towards Gotham is a fabricated lie, and he does everything in his power to save his own position instead of realising his mistakes. He relates to Selina quite a lot, as she becomes most like him by the end, despite the mask being torn from her face and Bruce pleading to go with him. She dies as the cat, giving in to holding up that persona, and it's with this wholehearted sacrifice that she gets her 9th life. In the end, with the characters presenting so many personalities, it's important that there remains a constant, that being Gotham City itself, with a remarkable and distinct atmosphere that lends itself well to the Christmas setting, but also the Gothic architecture, so prevalent in the comics, that have translated into a more detached world from ours, yet feels stylish and beautiful. It is both haunting and cold, yet so bustling and cosy that it brings warmth to the characters. Gotham is a corrupt and nightmarish place to live, but it is home, and the characters do not treat it as anything different, as it is the inhabitants that make a place dangerous and not the architecture. Gotham is fully fleshed out by its lively and colourful set of characters hidden within the dark colour palette that evokes horror but brings a festive warmth that keeps the movie as a classic for the whole family, with a light-hearted tone, once again showing the strong theme of duality. Batman Returns asks a fascinating question.
Well, was Vicky right about your difficulty with duality?
If you find yourself an outcast of the world, is it wrong to be yourself, or should you keep the persona that everyone else has in order to fit in and be accepted by society? And it's ultimately a question that it leaves quite open-ended to your own interpretation, depending on which of its characters you relate to the most. But it does take a deep dive into the psychological mindset of the Batman, and his endless cycle of looking for purpose, and how he finds love in this clockwork madness that he is trapped within. He may be an outcast, but if you can find others like yourself, maybe you're not so much of an outcast after all. With this looking to be my final video of the year, I thought I would just take a few minutes at the end here just to really say thank you to everyone that has supported this channel over the last year, and especially the last few months, where the growth of the channel has been terrifying. I mean, I get emails through every time someone subscribes or comments, and they're coming through daily now, which is pretty scary for me personally. As someone who's been doing YouTube for 5 years, on and off, on multiple channels, and never getting anywhere, it's mad that things are actually starting to pick up, and that all this work is actually going somewhere. But it's important to note that this YouTube channel for me is still a hobby. You know, with 2020 being such a horrific year, I've obviously had some personal issues to deal with as well, where the YouTube channel has provided such a fantastic distraction to put my feelings into something constructive and creative, and, you know, it's weird that in the last few months people have really started to resonate with it when I was probably at my lowest. So it's about taking that, what worked, and pushing it forward into 2021. Thank you all for 2020. No matter how bad it's been, I hope you all have a Merry Christmas and a very Happy New Year, and I'll see you next year, and thank you all for watching.